Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Cosmic Leadership Podcast. I'm so happy to be with you today. I'm really excited because we are joined by someone that I actually haven't gotten to speak to in 2 years due to all this craziness in the world, but she is a most incredible person. So I know that you've all heard of human design. If you follow this podcast, you probably even know your human design. It's a beautiful system that allows us to fully embrace who we are. And there's a much better explanation, and I'll let our beautiful guest today do it for us. Her name is Erin Claire Jones, and she is a human design reader that helps thousands of individuals and companies step into their work and their lives as their truest selves and to their highest potential. Her work as a guide, coach, and speaker has attracted a growing community of over 180,000 people who turn to her teachings for practical tools, digestible tips, and deeper self-knowledge they can access to live with greater ease and authenticity every single day. Thank you so much for being with us, Erin.
Of course, I'm so happy to be here and to see you.
Thanks. So let's dive right in. Erin and I were just catching up, and we've both since moved out of the city and into kind of quieter places. So we were talking about how our design can actually help us figure out what kind of living situation works for us. And though some of our listeners may already know the main types that you are in human design, could you just introduce us a little bit more to human design as a practice and also to those types?
Of course. So, human design is a system based on your time, date, and place of birth that reveals your energetic blueprint, how you're wired to thrive, both in your business, in your relationships, and in your life. It really gives us each our own roadmap. I think we get into a lot of trouble in life when we're trying to follow someone else's path or expect someone to be similar to us. And I think human design reminds us that we are all wired to operate so differently. And it just gives us the tools to really step into that. At the highest level, there are 5 different types. This is such an important piece, but it's also just the first piece. There are manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors, and manifestors. As you said, people might already know their type. If you don't yet know, you can look it up at humandesignblueprint.com. You want me to go through a kind of brief snippet on each type? Is that right?
That would be great.
So manifesting generators and generators are kind of our collective, our doers, the people that have amazing energy to kind of build, create, make things happen when they're so genuinely lit up and satisfied with what they're doing. So a big job for both of them is prioritizing their own excitement and seeing that not as a selfish choice, but actually as the thing that really allows them to have the most positive impact in the world. And also a big lesson for both of them is boundaries, because they both have such natural energy. People might come to them for all kinds of things, so
Mm-hmm.
really kind of trusting their gut to know what they're available for and what they're not. Manifesting generators specifically are often quite multi-passionate, might like moving in between different things, probably don't like being put in a box. They're really here to kind of keep reinventing themselves and pivoting and shifting as they desire. And they move pretty quickly. And so it's nice for them to be surrounded by people that help them in the step-by-step process. And generators bring this very kind of masterful, steadfast energy to anything they do and are so powerful at bringing ideas to life, like I said, when they're actually satisfied by them. And both of those types are meant to let things come to them. They're not meant to chase after anything. They're meant to wait for things to show up in their world and light up their gut before they go after it.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we've got projectors.
Mm-hmm.
Projectors are really here to be leaders, guides, advisors, teachers, not here to do all the doing. Projectors are so innately sensitive to other people's energy, which makes them really great therapists, coaches, CEOs, managers. Their energy is going to ebb and flow. They are not designed to do all day long. So building space and rest and ease into their days is so essential. And I would say one of their biggest lessons is knowing that their gift is not in how hard they work or how much they do. It's really kind of in their perspective and how they see. And their strategy, we all have a strategy about kind of how we create the right opportunities, is about waiting to be invited in. So really investing their energy in the places where they feel the most deeply seen, known, and recognized.
Yeah.
Okay, then we've got manifestors like you.
Woohoo.
Manifestors are here to be the initiators, the disruptors, the innovators, the ones that are really good at getting things started, not necessarily doing all the doing to kind of keep the thing alive, but like getting a thing off the ground. I
Mm-hmm.
would say manifestors tend to really value freedom and autonomy and control. They're really not here to be told what to do, managed, or guided in any way, here to do things on their own terms and in their own way. They tend to thrive in more entrepreneurial settings, or they're just given total freedom to kind of run a thing as they please. And their energy is very spurty, meaning that like you might have a crazy creative burst where you can make a ton happen. And then instead of like continuing to push yourself, it's really about taking rest and space and time alone and kind of allowing the next surge to arise. And your strategy is all about making the first move, initiating, trusting yourself to just go for a thing.
Mhm.
And also about just keeping the people around you in the loop. If you just go initiate and don't let people know, they can be quite resistant. If you give them a heads up before you fly, you might find a bit more ease in bringing ideas to life.
That is probably the best thing that you ever taught me, Erin, is that
Yeah.
bringing your ideas to life, but making sure everybody around you is in the loop.
Mhm.
Because when I do that, everyone offers to help, which is so
Yes.
wonderful. And I didn't know
Yeah.
that until I stopped being secretive about what I was going to do next.
I know. And like, and also manifestors aren't here to do it alone. And
Yeah.
so when you just like really give people a heads up, they know how to support, they'll come to you to support. And one big reminder with that informing piece is that it's never about asking for permission or explaining yourself. It's literally just like, I am letting you know what I'm doing. I'm not looking for your perspective, but like, yeah, if you want to help, I'm here, but I'm just
Yeah.
like, it's out of respect. Are any other pieces you want to share? The manifestor piece, is that all still resonant with kind of where you are in your life and how you're showing up?
Yes. And I have to say, for all of my fellow manifestors out there, getting over that hump to know that you're here meant to initiate is like, for me, that was probably the biggest hurdle because I was watching a lot of other people in our community just sort of like relaxing and attracting, and I was very involved in
Yeah.
Kundalini yoga at the time, and that whole relax and attract theory just was not working for me at all. I was relaxing, but not really
Right.
because I was in panic that nothing was moving and nothing was happening. And that's never attractive either. And it's just actually not my place here on this earth to relax and attract. It's my place to decide what I'm into, go for it, and then
Yeah.
things fall into place. And when I'm seeing things not fall into place, I know that it's just not meant to be, and then I can move on to the next thing I'm super passionate about.
Yes, yes. I love that, and it's just like such a good reminder we're all meant to do it differently and we're often conditioned to be the opposite of what we are. Like the
Yeah,
people that are here to relax and attract end up just like chasing after things and nothing's happening. So it's just so nice. Like, what is our strategy?
right. I think that's so important, especially in work as an entrepreneur. My girlfriend is the most incredible person. She's a projector. We are so compatible, it's ridiculous. I had no idea that beautiful relationship between manifestors and projectors until I met her.
Yeah.
And we help each other build our businesses. Like it's been such a great 2 years doing that.
Yeah.
And because she knows that she's supposed to actually relax and attract and just
Yeah.
share her work and share what she's been up to. And then
Yeah.
I also get to talk about how great she is. That also helps.
Yes. Yeah. I
And I
love that. Oh, go
after,
ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go. I want you to finish.
Because she's a projector, she has that projectory wisdom that I think is so important.
Yeah.
I have worked with projectors a lot throughout my life, but I wasn't into human design when I was doing that. But like, I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that the assistant that I had for 12 years was a projector. She was running the whole show. I'd be like, how do you come up with this stuff? Where did you even think of that? I could never do that. It's such a
Yeah.
gift. And what I've learned through this whole process too is that like when you really show projectors how much you appreciate them and how genius they are, then they get even more genius. It's just like a beautiful cycle.
Yeah, it's such a good reminder. It's like I think that when projectors feel invited in and recognized, it gives us so much energy. And
Yeah.
so when you actually like see her gifts and see all those things, like it is only going to like accentuate and amplify them and all the things. And you probably are so wonderful for her because as a manifestor, you're going to initiate the people around you into new things. Like you have this really sparky energy and catalyzing energy. And so it's really so sacred and wonderful to be in a manifestor's energy. Like the last job I had, I quit because literally 4 minutes before I went to meet with my boss, my manifestor friend was like, "It's time to go," and I was like, "Okay, noted." And I went to, but
Oh,
it's just so funny. Like she really like continues to play that role in my life. She just sparks things. So I think that like it is really such a beautiful combination and partnership as long as the differences are honored.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the other piece too is honoring the differences. So
yeah,
I think we didn't talk about reflectors. I know they're 1%. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about
Of course.
reflectors and then we'll go
Yes.
back?
Yes, reflectors are our mirrors. They're basically people that are deeply sensitive to their physical space and always taking in and magnifying the energy that they're around, whether it's a family, team, community, society. And so it's so important for reflectors. It is important for all of us, but especially for reflectors to be ruthlessly curating always the people and
Mhm.
spaces they're with and in. Being our people that feel good, uplifting, nourishing, they'll magnify all of that. We
Yeah.
call them evaluators because they just see and sense things that so many people miss. So it's really good for them to be in environments where that wisdom is so recognized and invited in. They can be
Yeah.
so objective, like they just feel so much, but it also requires that they don't take in energy that's not their own. They have some good perspective on that. And then the last piece that I would share about reflectors is that they're very fluid. They're probably going to have days where they feel like a manifestor, like a projector, like a
Hmm.
generator, like a manifesting generator. And so their job is never to put themselves into a box or show up just one way, but honor whatever feels like them that day, knowing that kind of it's all them. And so just staying curious around what part of them wants to come out.
That is so cool. And I read somewhere that reflectors are only 1% of our personnel or of our population.
Correct.
Can you theorize about why that is?
I mean, the theory I would say is so generators and manifesting generators are the majority, and then
Okay.
projectors, manifestors, and reflectors. I think that like my feeling is that some types like are needed more en masse than others. Like
Yeah.
because generators and manifesting generators are like the builders, the creators that are making it happen, like we really need them.
Yeah.
Projectors as guides, we also need them, but we can't have everyone be a guide in that way. We like
True.
need to get stuff done, and it needs to be in
Yeah.
combination. And same with manifestors. Like manifestors are so good at sparking, but like not always at sustaining. So like we need the manifestors to spark, but we also need the people to kind of keep building and creating. And I
Hmm.
think why reflectors are the rarest is because you only kind of really need one in a setting to kind of take in and just like let us know it's working and how things could be made better.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like one in every group to kind of offer that powerful perspective. That doesn't mean if they're like not, if there are multiple reflectors in like a family or team, that's fine, perfect,
Yeah.
great. But I think that like because they're mirroring it back and letting us know what's not working and how things could be made improved, like we don't need tons of them everywhere.
Yeah. That's a
Does that
cool
make sense?
theory. I like it. Yeah. Yeah.
It just, and I think what human design reminds us of is that we all need each other because we just play different roles, and we often get tripped up because we're trying to play a role that's not ours. And it's like generators and manifesting generators, like the builders, the creators, the doers, projectors as the guides, manifestors as the initiators, and reflectors as the evaluators. Like we just desperately need each other to kind of really find flow in our businesses and lives.
Absolutely. I mean, I was thinking about in preparation for our chat today, I was thinking about the different times in life that
Yeah.
have like the schedules that have worked best for me as a manifester. And the times that have worked the worst is when I've been in complete lack of acknowledgement that I have really short bursts of high energy, like 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day, and I make a ton of stuff happen. And then I need to just sit around and do something different for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
And I think that is easier to do if you run your own business because you can hire people to do stuff during those few weeks, or you can prep a lot of things in advance and just know that you're not really going to have to touch anything.
Yep.
You can go online and do social media if you want to, but you don't have to.
Yep.
Um, but I think that's the schedule that works the best, and it also takes into account the fact that there are generators in the world, thank God, who love certain things and have consistent energy, and they can just
Yeah.
keep going, you know?
Totally. And there's just like more of a sustainable energy. And this is not like as if you're listening on a generator, like it doesn't mean you're necessarily building anyone else's idea. Like my
Yeah.
husband's a generator, he's been an entrepreneur his entire life. But I think that like it's just that like when you're lit up and satisfied, you like bring so much energy to anything and you like give
Hmm.
everyone else around you energy. And so you're so right. Like the thing that doesn't excite you will excite someone.
Yeah.
And I also love what you shared about being a manifester because I think that when you start to really honor those surges and rest periods, like one, it will only make you more effective because like you're going to
Hmm.
be so effective in those surges. But I think also like those rest periods are so important for you because it's often where the next idea or inspiration will come. And so if you actually just like bypass those and just try to keep working, like you're going to like not have a whole lot of clarity on where to go next.
Yeah.
And so those rest periods are actually really in preparation for what's next and they play such an essential role.
Agreed. And let me ask you this about projectors because you're a projector as well.
Correct.
So I have to go, 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 go for like several weeks to make an idea happen. Like for me, it's usually about my courses, and I've been building a much larger certification course for a bunch of different things. And so while you can't see what I'm doing behind the scenes because I'm not, it's going to take like 6 months to put it out.
Yeah.
Um, while I'm building, 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 I take a couple weeks off every now and then to think about the next module of the course. And I have to not think about it to think about it.
Yeah,
Do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
I
I have
do.
to be like laying on the beach and reading a book, and then I'm like,
Totally.
oh, this is what it is. I
So
know
crazy.
completely.
Yes, yes.
But my girlfriend, who's a projector, functions super differently. She needs to work, she needs to practice her craft, let's say, not necessarily work, but she needs to practice her craft for like 3 hours a day. That's just
Hmm.
her bare minimum. That's what feels great to her. And then if there's more work that can be done after that, that's excellent. But like,
Hmm.
and it's every day. So even if we go on vacation, it's every day.
Mm. And when you say practice her craft, is it like really about like learning and studying and taking it in, or is it like putting her gifts out into the world?
Both. She's an
Yes.
artist and she's always learning some new form of art.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the balance for us as projectors is like there's just kind of has to be balance between input and output. Like,
Yeah.
of course, there's like offering gifts and sharing it and like selling the art or any of the things. But I think that like taking time to like learn and study and really hone our craft is so important. And also it's like the most nourishing. Like projectors are often just like such avid learners. We're just like,
I know.
can
I
we take
love
this and can we learn this?
it.
But it makes sense. And I think also like even on vacation, it's probably really nourishing for her to really kind of cultivate that. And also I will say that like as a projector, we're here to be invited in. And that's probably one of the best ways to magnetize invitations because the more she cultivates her craft and the more she recognizes her own value and the more you remind her of it, the more
Yeah.
the world sees it too, you
That's true.
know? So it's just
Yeah.
like that cultivation is so important. And I find I'll go through periods where I'm like pure output and I
Mhm.
haven't really like had the time to cultivate and I feel so depleted. Like it's just so like that kind of that need for input is so important in actually keeping us energized and evolving.
I agree. I think it's important for manifestors too, but that might also just be a me thing. But I need to
Yeah.
consistently learn or I get super bored with what I'm doing.
Yeah, totally. And also for you, like you got to keep it new, you
That's
know?
very true.
So you're like a little boring. I gotta like shake it up,
Yeah,
keep this exciting, keep this different.
very true. Okay, so can you share with us some tips about the channels and the gates? I know this is often a confusing part for people.
Yes. Yeah. And it's a bit hard to generalize only because there are so many of them.
I
Um,
know.
so basically, if you look at a chart, and I just want to acknowledge that like a chart is not an intuitive looking thing. You're not going to look at the chart and be like, I get it. It's like you
Yeah.
look at the chart and you're like, I'm going to close the window. That looks really overwhelming. So I just want to acknowledge that it's overwhelming. So when you say channels, this is basically the lines that are fully colored in your chart, meaning that they'll fully connect between one shape and another. They could be red, black, gray, black, but basically there's no white. They're colored
Mhm.
in. If you're a reflector, you won't have any. And if you're
Okay.
any other type, you will have at least one, but you could
Okay.
also have 10. And these are basically kind of your innate strengths, the things that make you you, the things that are always present. Why reflectors have none is because they have access to all of them, just not consistently. It's because it kind of speaks to their fluidity. So I would say where's, and I'll use yours as an example if you're open to that.
Yes,
Yeah.
please. You can share screen and everything.
Okay. I think it'll be overwhelming for people.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
But I'll tell them what numbers I'm referencing. So
Okay.
where I think these can be useful, the channels specifically, the fully colored lines, is that like these are our strengths. And so often when I share them with people, they're like, oh my God, I've always felt that, but I thought everyone could do that.
Yeah.
And so I think when we really understand our strengths, we really feel like we can lean into them so much more. And I
Yeah.
also think that like there's so many tools for each strength of like, how do you lean into that? How do you kind of really activate that strength within you? And honestly, when you're living your design and basically living in alignment, they're just going to naturally emerge. Like you often don't have to force them. Before I speak about your channels, there's also an aspect called gates. And so basically, two gates will make up a channel. These are going to be kind of all the little half lines in your chart. These are energies that are, if they're not part of a channel, they're not as consistent, but I think it's a really cool area to look at because it's where you connect best with other people. So if I was to look at you and your girlfriend's chart, like you can actually start to see like what are all the pieces where you have one half of something and she carries the other half. And then when you're together, like a whole new energy is sparked, you know? So there's a lot of cool uses, but I would say that's a really fun area to look at with gates is like partnership and what you kind of energies you activate and create in each other.
Okay. Okay, so we took a quick break so that I could give Erin Laura's details. Laura approved this, by the way, everybody. So we're going to look at my chart. What is it called? Not synastry. What do you call it in human design?
We call it, honestly, I just call it a partnership chart. It's like
Okay,
kind of a compatibility layer chart. Yeah.
cool.
So I was mentioning that there's one piece in our design where basically you can look at areas where one person has one gate and the other person has the other. And it's basically like a whole new energy that you create together. And so the energy that y'all create together in your design is called the channel of money or management. I know this is 2145 for my human design nerds. And it basically means when the two of you are together, there's like, just like you really create this capacity to make things happen, you know, and you also might sense that there's like a real need for like freedom, autonomy and control and like independence and just power, you know. And you both are really good at being in control and like in leadership in different ways. It might manifest in different ways, but it really like there's just a really powerful capacity. I would say in business, when I see people that have this, it's really often an amazing sign. um and so yeah, I would just say that like when the two of you are together, there's a whole new kind of like will and power to make things happen that's created, which is an amazing thing to access and also really good to take time alone just to kind of remember what's yours, reconnect to that, and then kind of tap into and activate that.
Absolutely.
Do
And
you
I
feel
can,
that? Okay.
yes, and I can tell you the way it's been manifesting for the last year or so. So I run this mentorship program and I work with people who are interested in learning about their spiritual gifts. And it's all different kinds of spiritual gifts, so I never get bored. And so as I work with these people, we do like a 6 month program and they figure out what their gifts are. It's always really unique and really beautiful. And then they start their own businesses using those gifts. And then Laura comes in and she helps them figure out the branding, the design, the logo, the brand identity. That's her other job. She does that for ad
Yeah.
agencies here in LA and she loves that too. And so it's been such a great experience to get to like, we have no work life boundaries, which I think for most people would feel really unhealthy, but it feels really good to us.
Yeah.
So, like, we'll be sitting around dinner and I'll be like, what do you want to do about her logo? Well, she does this. I think we should make it like this. And it's such a great partnership, and we get to serve the people we work with so much better because we bring those two things together.
Yes, I love it. And it does feel like, again, it's such a good example of like you sparking the thing and then she kind of comes in to kind of guide them and really like completing and making that thing happen.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's also a really cool energy, like in terms of like not only having all this capacity with the two of you, but also like really inspiring others to kind of like ask for what they want and like, you
Yeah.
know, and to be successful and to like make money and be in like the material world, you know. So it also feels like it probably has a really positive impact on all the people that come to you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah.
Do you,
So, oh, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Are there other channels and gates that you see in business partnerships and in love partnerships a lot that you want to highlight?
Yeah, well, one that I laugh at because sometimes they're a little bit challenging.
Hmm.
I have one with my partner, which is around like rhythm and flow. And
Okay.
basically, like it basically means that like my partner has like a little bit more of a need for like routine and rhythm, you know, and having real ritual, and that really offers him such grounding. I'm a little bit more extreme, you
Yeah.
know, it just like changes all the time. So it's just like always so funny when people have this because like it means that like they can either be really in flow or like totally out of sync, you know? And so it's just like so important to kind of honor the differences. And I think often in moments like that, it's like not expecting the partner to be as consistent in their rituals as you and kind of allowing the extremes. And so honor how different they are. That's one. There's another one that I see a lot, which is around, we call this the gift of creativity, where one person might kind of have all these innate creative gifts. And honestly, you and Laura both have this. They like really
Yay.
just like are here to be so creatively expressed. But it's nice actually, and this may be the one that we talked about in the session a while ago, but like it's nice to partner up with people that can then like market and get those gifts out into the world,
Hmm.
and kind of like help pull that out in a whole different way. So it's always just so fun. And honestly, we're often drawn to people that have things that we don't. And so we
Yeah.
often don't have to force it. Like it will just kind of naturally emerge. But it's again, it's such a reminder that like we often put a lot of pressure on ourselves to like fulfill the other half of this thing. And honestly, we're not meant to. We're just
Right.
meant to kind of partner up with the right people that actually bring that thing out of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that a lot of, I mean, not to get too deep here, but I think a lot of the modern world has kind of, before the pandemic, it was forcing us to just sort of be single and solitary, and you have to do everything on your own. And then during the pandemic, I think a lot of us realized that is just not possible. Like, first, there was the whole adjustment to work from home, which you and I have been doing for years, but for a lot of
Yeah.
people, it was a huge adjustment, and just learning how your strategy and authority and all of your human design stuff works now in this new place of somewhat isolation. Like, you still have your colleagues there to help fill in those gaps, and you need each other, but it's just a whole different world, you know?
Yes. Yes. Totally. Totally. Yeah. And it is, it's important for us to remember how important support is, whether it's virtual or not. And I just think that like I know that for me and my business, and I've witnessed this in so many clients, like we can just like try to do it all on our own. And like it's really challenging and often not sustainable. So really allowing it in.
Totally.
Yeah.
I wanted to switch gears a little bit to your business for a minute.
Okay.
So it's grown so exponentially since we met all
Yeah.
of those years ago at the assemblage.
Hmm.
It's this co-working space in New York. Does it still exist? Anybody?
No,
No. Okay.
burned out as COVID
Yeah.
came in, it was really hard to sustain a co-working space.
Right. I
Yeah.
imagine. Well, you were the light of that place anyway.
God, it feels like it came into existence for such a powerful amount of time for so many of us, and then it
Yeah.
disappeared.
Well,
But
it
go
did what
ahead.
it was meant to do.
It really did. I know. I'm so grateful for it always.
Yeah. So then you took off as a human design expert,
Yeah.
and everything has just been exploding. I was reading that you've been in Forbes and all of these incredible things. So, what would be your advice to our other cosmic leaders here on the podcast to help your business explode?
Yeah. Well, gosh, so many things. I think that like, and I can speak a bit more to projectors than to the rest, but like it was definitely aligning with my design that made all the difference. Like I think that I started my first human design business in 2015, pre-assemblage, and it was really challenging because I was like, I've got to initiate, I've got to force, like I've got to make it all
Oh,
happen when my strategy was all about being invited in.
yeah,
Also, this was at a time in the world when like no one knew what human design was and no one seemed to care,
yeah,
and so like, and I was focused on a very niche environment, just like businesses.
yeah,
And so like it was such an important time and such a time full of learning, but like not a successful time, not a time that was actually financially sustainable. And so I ended up walking away from human design in 2017. And I was just like, no one cares. I can't do this. Like I can't.
oh,
It's good. It was so good,
yeah,
but like looking back, it all makes sense. But it was just not the time. And I also wasn't in the right business partnership to really support it.
yeah,
And then basically in 2018, my partner was like, Erin, 2017, he was just like, you can't walk away from this. Like, you have to start again. And I was like, fine, but I don't want to fail again. And so January 2018, I like started my own practice again. And, I started so much of being a projector is making yourself visible. And
hmm,
so I was at the assemblage, it's beautiful co-working space. And so I started just like giving talks and sharing with the members there. And I would say for about a year and a half, every single client of mine came from the assemblage,
yeah,
and so like I just was making myself visible in this very intimate community, but it was growing and it was a really beautiful community, and so it was really sustainable. And I
yeah,
knew that I could leave the assemblage when my community extended beyond that. And so I would just say that like honestly the thing that has led to the most success for me is knowing that my only job is to make myself visible, because people can find me if they see me and they cannot if they don't. And so like I
yeah,
just made it a practice to start sharing on Instagram and newsletters and podcasts, and then it really grew, not because I was for everyone, but because I started to allow myself to be seen by more and more people in a way that allowed more and more people to kind of recognize and invite me in. And so it's really been such an amazing journey. So I think that like honestly, the biggest thing has been visibility. It's also been around partnership. You know, my husband is my business partner, and he really brings so much of the strategy and operations of the business. And
Yeah.
so like I think that I love human design. I love mastering human design.
Yeah.
I am not always so smart about all the business things, you know? And so I think it was really important for me to recognize that and to kind of really be like, let me just like be really, really good at human design and find support on the rest. And he's been so amazing at helping us like scale in a way that I could have never imagined. So I think it was like visibility and also support, and also like really continuing to move forward even in the times when I was like receiving no external validation. You know,
Hmm.
it's like it's easy to be like, whatever, no one cares, I'm going to drop off. And like I did that the first time, but I kept studying, I kept learning because I was like, someday people will care. And so
Yeah.
sometimes like the recognition doesn't come immediately, as soon as we think it's meant to. So also really trusting yourself throughout all of it. But it's really been a wild journey. And I will just say that another thing that's been really useful for us is really getting clear on the kind of business that we want to build. You know, I think that when you and I connected, I was probably just offering sessions, and I
Yes.
think maybe giving blueprints for those sessions. And
Yeah.
I used to kind of make these, I would call them manuals at the time, these kind of
Hmm.
like written guides for design. And I think a big shift in our business happened when it was like, actually, people just kind of want that. Like I can
Yeah.
sit with people, but I can only sit with so many of them, you know? And
Yeah.
so we really kind of like we like started making that its own offering, and it's been really wild to watch that grow. That is the majority of our business, 90%, you know? And
Wow.
so
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
yeah, I still do sessions like for because I enjoy them, but it's very not a huge meaningful part of our business, you know, and I've been kind of like winding them down more and more. So
Mhm.
it's been a real journey of experimentation and trial and error. And that was very windy, but I would just say like visibility, like having the right support, getting really clear on the business that you want to build and like what offerings would support that. I realized I couldn't
Yeah.
sit with people every day forever. And also just trusting yourself, even when like the external world wasn't quite giving you that validation.
I think that's a great piece of advice. I would say sitting with myself, even when the world is not giving me validation, is kind
I
of the
know.
name of the manifestor game.
Totally. Cause you're
So,
ahead of the game. You're like, I see it. Everyone else is like, I don't see it yet. You're like, but it's coming.
exactly. And so my challenge in business is like staying interested in the thing long enough until everybody
Yeah.
else catches up. Tough.
Mhm.
I'm telling you, it's tough.
I
But
hear that.
what I've learned how to do, and this is for all of my manifestor brothers and sisters out there, is like make a bunch of stuff that's still in the place where you are when you're there. So I made a bunch
Yeah.
of digital courses where I was as I was going along, and those things are selling really well now.
Yeah. And like, and it sounds like they're actually like courses that you don't have to be there live for. Is that right?
Yeah, they're
Which is great.
recorded and they're great. I love them. Like I still take them on my own because I love them, but
Yeah. But I think it's a good reminder where you're like, I created this thing and I had all the juice and energy to do it. And
yeah.
it doesn't require my ongoing maintenance, you know? And I think again, like you're going to see things ahead of everyone else. And so you're going to create a thing. And then 2 years later, everyone's gonna be like, this is the most amazing
Yeah.
thing. So I just love that you created it in a way that didn't require you to be live all the time.
I mean, I
That,
was
yeah,
live all the time when I was recording them,
of
but
course.
yeah.
But
Now they're more
more fun.
popular than they were back then when I was recording them.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yes.
What
So
other
cool.
tips? I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
There you go. There you go. I just said so cool. I love that. I just love that as a manifester strategy. Like create the thing, make it available, give yourself permission to move on.
Yeah. And I think that's part of it too. What else would you recommend to manifestory business owners?
Manifestory business owners, like I would just say, like I think that you offered such a good example there. Like you're really good at starting things and initiating things. So I just like I love the example. Be like, yeah, create the thing and either like hand it off and delegate or like make it evergreen in some capacity so you can move on to the next thing. I think where I see manifestors get the most burnt out is like starting the thing and then feeling like they have to just keep sustaining it. I would also remind them, like you just said, that like you're here to be disruptive. And so you might just see things before anyone else does, you know? And so just knowing that, like knowing that you're going to be the first. And so there might be times where you're like, this is the time. And then everyone else is like 2 years later, like, this is the time. And you're like, fine, well, I've made it. So it's there for you. Um,
Yeah.
I would just remind you again that you're not here to do it all alone, you know? And so really kind of informing people of what you're up to so you can bring on the right support. I'd also say a lot of manifestors I've worked with like don't really love being like super like managing people in a really
Hate it.
involved way. Yeah.
Hate it.
So
Yeah.
I would say like probably the most ideal thing for you is to just like really bring on very independent team members that you
Hmm.
can really like inform them of like these are the things that need to happen and just like trust that they're going to do it. And they're
Yeah.
just gonna like keep you in the loop and keep you updated, but it's not like you've got to be involved all the time.
Yeah.
I also think it's really important for your team to know that your energy ebbs and flows. I was working with a manifestor entrepreneur recently, and like her team knows this so well, where she'll like literally disappear for a few weeks
Yeah.
and then come back like on fire with all these things. And
Yeah.
so like they've really learned how to respect that and honor that in her, you know? And now she like just like has to remember like I'm disappearing, I'll be back,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
I'm doing an important thing. And I would also say like really considering as a manifestor, like how to craft a schedule that makes you feel free, you
Yeah.
know, and that just gives you freedom because that's often such a core value for manifestors. And so not feeling kind of like confined and constricted by the business you built.
Yeah. I think so too. I think your blueprint is so great. As we're talking, I'm trying to think of like how can I implement a blueprint type product into everything that I do? Because if that's 90% and it's also so specific, I don't think I got one because I found you at the very beginning. I don't think you were even doing
I wasn't
blueprints
offering it.
yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've had several friends show me their blueprints from you in the meantime. And it's so awesome because it's really, so everybody check this out. It's
Yeah.
like the most specific you can get. Like
Yeah.
you go through everybody's gates, channels, their incarnation cross, which I think is super fascinating. Do you want to share with us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. About the blueprint or about the incarnation cross?
Both.
Yeah, well, I think the blueprint is like we just felt like people needed like a manual to them. You
Yeah.
know, like I think that with human design, like it's really wonderful to sit with people in sessions. But if you literally have a book all about you, it just like is a thing that you can keep returning to. Like I have clients read it like every week, every day, every month, every
Hmm.
year, you know, and the way that I really, you know, intend to deliver human design is through a very kind of practical, empowering lens. And so the blueprint is meant to be accessible to just someone who's totally new to human design. Like people buy it for their entire teams, where it's just like it's not in very jargony language. It's just like, hey, you make decisions this way, and like you collaborate best this way, and this kind of communication is really good for you.
Yeah.
And it's also really good. I have so many fellow human design readers get theirs because they're like, I just love having all the information about my design in one place because
Yeah.
like I can just keep coming back to it to make sure I'm in alignment, you know, because it just kind of
Yeah.
builds that awareness of how our design and how to find flow. And I think my intention with human design, with the with the blueprint, is not to teach people human design, but to like let them know everything they need to know about their design to live the most aligned and in flow life.
Yeah.
And that's what I find most people are looking for. The incarnation cross is a very interesting and deep part of our design. There are 192 of them,
Right. Wild.
and it's so crazy. It's not the first piece that I recommend diving into, but it's really just like it's a reflection of kind of our grander purpose. And why
Yeah.
it's not the first piece is that like if we're not living it yet, we might read it and feel like a little bit alienated by it. And our
Oh,
incarnation cross doesn't tell us how to get there, it just lets us know what it is. And so
yeah.
I think like all these other pieces of our design, like our type, strategy, authority, profile, all those centers, channels, like it helps us get there, you
Hmm.
know? And so it's kind of a dance knowing how to introduce that and when, but like
Yeah.
all these parts of our design are so of service in different ways at different times.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
even just learning, I think for our audience anyway, even just learning the things that we've learned today, like how to
Yeah.
just really, and there are certain parts of it too that are so aligned with just living like a more um, helpful life for yourself. Like we're not carbon copies of each other. And I think the last few years have really brought that out. And so human
Totally.
design is like the most incredible way to just love yourself and be like, yes, that's why
Yeah.
I don't want to work 20 hours a day. Or yes, that's why I have no marketing capacity whatsoever. And I need to like have other people in my life and in my business to help me do that, you know?
100%. And it's just like, I think one thing that I've really learned is one, it just makes us feel better. We're like so
Yeah.
relieved to be like, oh my God, we get to be who we are and find success that way.
Yeah.
But I think, oh shoot, I totally forgot my point. But totally missed that. Oh, what I was going to say is that like I've sat with so many clients who have built like really successful businesses, if we're like just going to say like financially successful or sustainable,
Yeah.
However, like they're totally burnt out because they did it in the
Yeah.
most unsustainable way. And so I think what human design really reveals is like not only how to really create the most aligned opportunities and businesses in your life, but to like do it in a way that actually feels good and is actually sustainable, you
Yeah.
know? And so I think that's so important is like, what is like, how can we do this in a way that feels good the whole time?
Yeah. Agreed. So these are the wise tips from beautiful Erin Claire Jones today. I highly recommend that you check out your blueprint because it's the most affordable option, and it also will give you, how long are they? Like 100 pages or something?
55 plus.
55
I mean, it
pages.
depends on their design. It's like 55, between 55 and 70. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll
Yeah.
have to get one for Laura. I don't think she has one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I know I recognized her name. I was like, did she have a blueprint? Um, and we have a discount code for your audience, which I
So
know.
everyone head over and get your blueprint, and you can learn all about you and what makes you special and different and how to get
Yes.
more into the flow. And thank you again so much, Erin, for being here with us.
Oh my God, it was so my pleasure. Thank you for having me.